Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This beautiful March the 31st, 2021 is 2:37 p.m. and on this video, I want to just basically reflect on the last year and discuss that. I want to give some words of caution and I want to share some information. And this title is going to go under my coffee talk, which I haven't done that in a very long time. So I took the opportunity to do this because right now I'm on vacation from the world. It's been a year since this whole unseen enemy came into our lives, and it's also been a year since the major earthquakes of 2020 on January 6th and 7th, and it's about to be 4 years since Hurricane Maria attacked the island in September the 20th, 2017. So I started to see a lot of disturbing things, and I started to notice that it's not really about compliance, because the more you comply, the more they're going to demand of you. And this abnormality of partial, therapies, but no school. And there's just a lot of things that just really don't make any sense. My son can get therapy, but there's no school. Not only that, but they're not addressing the psychological aspect of this lockdown on our children, which the majority is suffering from. A lot of us have tried to maintain normacy, but there's only so much normacy in the abnormal, where one is confronted with a choice to continue the madness or to separate yourselves. And right now, I am reflecting. So that means I'm completely separated. Because I have to admit that there comes a time in everybody's life where you have to stand back, sit back and say, you know what? Hold on a second. I have to look at this. I have to analyze this because it's just too much. If you can relate to that, that's at the stage that I am right now. But then again, I'm not embedded in the world, but it's an indirect effect. To some is a direct, to other is an indirect. Here comes the disclaimer. I am not here to misinform anybody. I am not out here for conspiracy theories. I am not here to forward fear-mongering information. No, I am here to reflect, state the fact, state what I see, and for everyone to take the information, seek it out, and compare it to what it is that they see around their surroundings. Either way, everywhere that you are, something is happening. And the whole world is under chaos, under abnormalities. And we can no longer deny that. It's there to be seen. And for those that have eyes to see, then you're going to be seeing it, because our ears are deceiving us. And it's clear on that. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. Salvation is an individual thing. If you cannot come to terms with that, then I don't know what to tell you, because we are responsible for ourselves. We cannot put that responsibility on nobody else but each individual to its own capability. So, with this being said, let's get into the reflection. So, since 2017 and going through Maria, okay, we can successfully say that those particular events are very hard to control. Natural catastrophes such as floods, flash floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, those are things that the average individual does not have any control over. So we know that even though they're very life-threatening and devastating, we have to learn from each event as we go. We go through experiences, we pick up something. We go to another experience, we pick up something. And that's how we develop our survival skills. Survival skills is not just confined to food and water. It's confined to other aspects depending on the situation and what's going around in your area. Because you cannot worry about what's going on in someone when you do not live there. You have to worry about your area where you are. And we have that experience to testify that we can be prepared for just about anything, but we cannot prepare for the inevitable and the things that we have no control over, such as the collapse of a system, monetary and communications. So, with each event that we're seeing, and with the incrementation in technology and how we have technology, you would think that things would be better or more well prepared, but that's not showing itself as accurate. The more technology that we get, the more dumbed down humanity seems to be. Which brings me, and the only thing that comes to mind is Little House on the Prairie and how they presented that particular lifestyle, where yeah, you worked, but you worked to support yourself. You worked to be independent. We didn't see no help from Big Daddy. It was all community based, and everybody was preparing for something different according to their capability. Everybody had a different lifestyle. So now we're looking at humanity having the potential to, instead of making things better for people and helping people more efficiency, we're looking at those times coming back, and destruction followed. And the warning signs are there. And the more time that passes, the more that this unseen enemy and its consistencies start surfacing. Because the problem with lies and misinformation is this. Lies and misinformation go hand in hand. So when you misinform a person, you're lying to them. Because if you were speaking the truth and giving accurate information, we would be able to prevent and protect our loved ones and those around us. But since we are being given misinformation and lies along with the misinformation, because they are hiding and covering things, then we can successfully understand that it's inevitable to see the chaos, the anarchy, and the inconsistencies with this unseen enemy. It's inevitable. Because as time passes, something surfaces and people start talking. And that is the problem with misinformation and lies, that they do not hold together because they're not the truth. So they cannot hold together, where true information and the truth holds together. This is bound to fall apart. And our consciousness can only go but so much and hold but so much that eventually the individual is going to crack because it becomes too much. Just like right now, the things that are happening in the world is becoming too much, where a lot of us are asking ourselves, where are we going with this? And we're looking to the past to see if we can see some type of connection. But in reality, there is none. Because they did not prevent then, and they did not learn anything from it, that we are in the predicament that we are. So, I have a few videos I want to share, and among those videos, we have the video of Dr. Birx, which is one of the doctors that was the up front under Trump, and came out when this whole thing started. And right now, she is claiming that many of the deaths could have been avoided. Which brings me back to truth and information. So, we need to ask ourselves, if we are given control information, can we prevent misinformation, lies, control information under a control environment? So, how can we prevent when the majority of the individual doesn't have all the facts and all the truth to make a critical and logical discernment on how they're going to prevent whatever it is that we are facing with? The next question arises, and it's a key question. We still, at this point, a year after this, and with everything that has come out, we still, at this point, do not know exactly with 100% certainty how this unseen enemy is targeting people. And if you ask the majority of people, they will tell you, I don't know. Yet, we are confined under a duplicity and the unrational and unnatural way of returning back to normal, which we've never seen before. So, we have to ask the question, if you yourself right now pick 5 people around your area, it could be the grocery man, it could be a cashier clerk, it could be somebody that worked in a bank, it could be somebody that's just walking down the street, and you ask them, do you know how this unseen enemy is attacking people or is being spread? And the majority of people are going to tell you, I don't really know, but from what they say, it's through droplets and it's through surfaces and it can live this much outside, but is that its original state of transmission? Because by this time, we should have not just more information, but we should have more accurate information on how it's transmittable and how is it attacking people that under normal circumstances would not be touched. People that are not amongst the population. People that are well guarded and segregated. Because that's the part that gives it out. Not only that, where have we seen this before? We could go back to 2001. We seen it. It was that key piece that brought into question the whole thing. Number 7. That was the icing in the cake by which everything else was brought into question. Due to the fact that that was very, very far away from the initial impact site. And will I remind you, it was very symmetrical. Very, very aligned. It didn't impact the sides, the fronts. Like it was perfect and beautiful. So, we've seen this before. We've seen this before. Just not under the pretext. The pretexts are different. If you look at the pretext of 2001 and after, it's very much different than now. Now, it's just this unseen enemy has the world under captivity, leading people into bondage. by their choices and lack of knowledge. And we can agree on that, because that's what we're seeing. But yet, they're telling us that things are far from going back to normal. So, let's go into the evidence right here. And once again, it will be all posted under the description box, and you are welcome to take a look at it, okay? And you are welcome to form your own opinion. This is not me spreading misinformation, because the video is there and I didn't create the video. So, we are sharing information, and everybody is to come to terms with it and apply it to them, depending on the severity of what this unseen enemy has done into your lives. If it hasn't done no damage and you're still clueless as to what's going on, then you're not going to react the same way as someone that is awoken and is looking at the inconsistencies and the duplicity behind everything, that it's not exactly and entirely the whole truth. And now we have the evidence to prove what we all suspected from the beginning. If hyperinflation is real, then hyper untruthness is even more real, where you would bring a whole entire team to create and orchestrate such as what we're seeing right now, but with a touch of lies and misinformation, so that people do not entirely rebel, but to maintain that level of confusion and fear to get compliance. Did that make any sense? So, what's the next question that pops up when you start listening to this? Well, right here and dated March 29, 2021, it comes from Reuters. The CDC director fears impending doom with the C-19 surge. And I will remind everyone that we're dealing with vipers, snakes, on a serious note, because they're going to continue this as long as they can, but with no successful outcome as to what's truly behind it, how is it truly spreading, what is it, where can it be found. Like, this unseen enemy is unlike any bacteria and any virus that we've ever seen, because the way it transmits is just unlogical and very remarkable. It's very sneaky. Like, you can almost say it's a smart virus. Oh yeah, it's got a mind of its own, basically, because nobody can seem to pinpoint with exactitude how are people getting infected, and how those places that already have implementations as to hygiene and stuff like that, such as hospitals and places like that, where we all know what we're dealing with, and we all protecting ourselves, are becoming the most vulnerable places where people are infected, going in infected, reinfecting, and a whole bunch of chain reactions are happening. The same thing that we're looking at in the nursing homes, where those people are elderly people. Most people that go into nursing homes, we know that their lifespan is very short. We know that they're very terminally ill. A lot of them are put there because their families don't want to deal with them, because they find them a burden, and they are subjected to the mischiefs of what is going on. And this unseen enemy just all of a sudden walked into those places and started emptying the environment. And we all know what happened. We all know that sick people are dying by themselves and alone. Like, can you imagine? Can you just imagine what it must feel like to be in a room, scared, with a whole bunch of machines around you, lacking understanding of what's going on, and being at the mercy of these people, and not having a support there, someone that can hold your hand, someone that you can express your feelings to, someone that you can talk to, like under normal circumstances? Can you connect to that? Because that must be horrible. And those that have been in hospitals by ourselves, we know that that is a very scary experience by itself. Never mind under these circumstances and all the fear and the uncertainty surrounding this whole unseen enemy. Something to think about on a serious note. I'll be right back. So we could just imagine how horrible it would be to die all alone without no one. Like, we need to think about that, because there's been so many people that we've lost that it's incomprehensible. So after this, we need to ask the question, was the situation mishandled? And we also need to ask the question, looking back, could this situation have been handled in a better way? So, was the situation mishandled? In my eyes, and in my opinion, considering everything that I've seen, yes, it was. Because it was under politics. And we have to understand that that particular establishment was at war. And there was some type of conflict going on behind closed doors that the majority of us just didn't understand. So things were set, quote unquote, to come from the other side. So this side made a lot of bad choices because of the simple fact that they thought that this was a political move. So if this unseen enemy would have attacked in a time where there was no political elections, things would have been handled way different. And I can almost see that, unless this was a very sinister agenda and it was going to go down no matter what. But since we already know who is in control, then we can successfully say that this came in a time where these principalities were going at it for power and control again, because this is what it is. The control of the Senate, the control of the presidency, the control of this, the control of that, you get the picture. So, could the situation be handled better? Yes, because people would have been able to get the appropriate information so that they can make decisions based on the accuracy of the information. But that wasn't the case. There was too much confusion at the beginning of all this. And there was too much things going around at the same time where many people just sat on it. And that right there gives it away as to the severity of it. So we need to question that. Another thing, can we prevent death? Is death preventable? The average person can't. You and I, They might have knowledge we can preserve until real help comes, but the average normal person can't. This is why we have the medical field. And that's why they're there. They're there to preserve life and to take care of the sick. But was that what we seen? Was that what we seen? So we have to weigh the things that we've seen in a scale, and we all have to come to terms with what we've seen, what we live, how it has affected us, and how we can move forward, recognizing what's there, and maybe in the future we might be able to prevent. But could we prevent it? Because a lot of the problems came from the political year and the misconcept, oh, he's coming at me because I'm running, and this has got to be a agenda of them to get me sidetracked, or to take over. And because let me tell you something, how is it possible that people that are not in normal society succumb to this unseen enemy? Key question. Very important to answer this question, because these people are not in normal population. These people, they travel in limousines, they got their own jets. They do not come into contact with the normal person. How are these people getting infected? And how much of this is real, and how much of it is serving as part of the agenda? Because that is one of the things that I noticed earlier on. And it's one of the things that's mind-boggling. When you start seeing untouchable people, be in touch. So you need to ask yourself, it's what we're seeing real, or is it just another one of those soap operas, just like the one that they've presented us before, where later on you learn that that particular building in that particular event has not been used in so many years, therefore the whole ordeal cannot have been true. But the majority of us don't understand certain things. Therefore, our emotions are being preyed upon, and we're acting on emotions. And when it comes to the elderly, crimes against children and stuff like that, the normal individual, they lose it, because those are the vulnerable. Those are people that we need to sympathize with and that we need to protect. So yeah, it hits home when you see crimes against the elderly, crimes against children, crimes against animals and stuff like that. Those are things that prey on our emotions. But we need to understand how accurate is the information. Not only that, but how true is it? Is it true? Because that makes the heck of a difference. And this is why we are to take a look at things neutral and in a neutral way. Doesn't matter how horrific they may seem, because the first impact is the worst. If you can hold your emotions in the first impact, then you have a better chance of making sense and logic of it. But if you just, on first impact, you just give in and you just break down and you start going through your emotional highs and lows, then you're giving off that negative vibration. And this is where these entities become fatter. Because that's what they want. They want our negative energy. They want to keep the environment as negative as possible. This is why on each event, we are to give thanks to our Heavenly Father for allowing us to acquire that experience, because we cannot continue to think that everything that happens, is bad luck, it's a mischief, and this and that, and all negative aspect, and not think positive and say, you know what, I'm going through a situation because there's something that I need to learn, and there's something here that might be helpful to me in the future. And this is where preparedness comes in. Preparedness is based on experience, what you go through, how you handle situations, your capability of maintaining your mind sane, the capability of thinking rationally. It's not just about food and water, people. Survival is more mental than anything else. And it would help us a whole lot if our spirituality was intact and acknowledgeable. Bottom line. But the majority of us don't think like that. Excuse me. The majority of us don't think like that. The majority of us are just too caught up in going to work, getting that paycheck, our mortgage, our car payments, the kids' school, buying clothes, I want to go do this, I want to go do that. Like, we are all over the place where we are not reflecting on what's going on, and we are not seeing ahead of time. One of the things that helped me after I learned how to read the Vestu Sky Map was being alerted ahead of time before something came, to give me that extra mile to prepare myself, knowing that this is coming, and not preparing 3 or 2 days before, such as how the world does things. Yeah, they start warning you 2 days before, because the rest of the times it's just a maybe and a probability, and people take that as, I don't have to worry about that. But those are the first warnings, because that's what you're seeing in the map, and the map gives you an ability to track it down. Not only was I able to warn other people, but I was able to prepare myself before the 90% of people became aware that a phenomenon was coming. I cannot warn 90% of the people. I can only warn my surroundings and those that are willing to listen. And a lot of people looked at me like, it's just another hurricane. And I told people, this looks like a monster. And boy, I couldn't have been more right. Like, that looked horrific. It was a horrific experience. But I learned so many things from it. And not only that, I learned things that under normal circumstances, I would have never taken a second look at, and I would have never done. Such as going to fetch water in a mountain. I would have never thought of going to the mountains to get water. So right then and there, it's a location that you learn. I wonder what other things are in the mountains that can be used for survival. So you see, survival is not just water, a jar of water, and a room stuck up on food. It's more to it. And if our spirituality is not awoken, and we cannot see things on a spiritual level and know that we're dealing with entities, our preparedness is going to be useless, because this is a mental thing, and eventually you're going to crack, and you're going to start feeling sorry for yourself, and you're going to give up. And we cannot give these entities that satisfaction. We have to be strong, and we got to be smart. And we have to know that they're going to come against humanity. And we have to understand that we are the target. It's evident. It's obvious. When you start looking into the information that's coming out now and these people speaking, I got these two videos. The doctor speaking and the CDC person speaking. You are going to notice that these two people are in contradiction of each other. Because one is telling you that the majority of the death could have been prevented, and this one is hyping things up. So you already know. For the sake of not getting a copy strike for misinformation, I will reserve some words, but you already know where we're heading and what we're talking about. Because the contradictions are there to be seen. The problem is that the majority of the individuals are asleep. And they don't understand that you need to read in between the lines and you need to think about worst case scenario. Right now, we had the event with the Evergreen ship and the 20,000 containers that it contained and the economical impact that it had during those 7 days. Take a look at the numerology. It's a beautiful one. Because it tells you clearly that this is a message being sent loud and clear. And we have to take it as such. So what type of message is it being sent? What type of message did we see? That it's very easy to halt the entire economy and to bring it to its knees, which is what the majority of people are alluring to that is coming. But the majority of people are unprepared. And how can we successfully establish that this has the potential to blow up? Why? Well, take a look at all the money that is being shoveled all over the place and being given all over the place, and you will get a sense of, I need to start preparing. This is my opportunity to start preparing. This is the opportunity to start asking myself, is my surroundings safe? Can I stay here? Or seeking another location? Yeah, because the majority of people do not understand the difference of bugging in and bugging out. They think that bugging out is going camping. And I'm sorry to tell you, that's not what bugging out means. Because you're useless, leaving yourself open to the elements, whatever is in the elements, not to mention those that are wanderers and are going to start attacking or coming against those that they find in their path and taking their stuff. Yeah, because let me tell you another thing. If you have not compared it, take a look at what happens on Black Friday. Take a look at the way people behave. It's going to be 3 to 10 times worse if food is needed. Because if people are willing to kill themselves for material goods and toilet paper and start a fight, can you imagine what will happen when it's food involved and they're hungry and they're willing to do anything and everything for that piece of bread? It's coming. It's coming. This was a warning. This thing with this ship was a warning, a writing on the wall. It's coming. And food shortages, we're already seeing that. In a small scale, but we're already seeing it. Because the majority of us are noticing that certain brands and certain things are not arriving in supermarkets. We see them once and then we never see them again. It's not a common item that you can find. It's one of those items that is here today and gone tomorrow. We're seeing that a whole lot. But we've been seeing it since after 2017, since the island is still not back at 100% recuperation. And we're seeing all the abnormalities and everything that's going on here. We're going through our share of the mismanagement and the misuse of things in the island by the powers that are in control. And how they have cause a lot of chaos and destruction. It's a little bit more open here than it is over there. So, we can successfully say that we are being warned. And we can successfully say that we should take this as a warning. Because, in a sense, this ship halted the economy for about 7 days. And a lot of money was lost. So, take it for what it is. Those that have eyes to see and ears to hear, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because it is that time where we need to start asking the right questions. And we need to start thinking about survival. Not just food-wise, but location, strategy. And we need to start asking ourselves, is our place of living right now able to be lived after things go haywire? Are you safe? Do you need to seek another location? But nevertheless, we need to be indoors, not outdoors. And considering the wildlife and the cryptos out there, which they will never admit to, bugging out in the wilderness, in the open, it's not advisable in the USA. So, with that being said, you are to exercise good judgment when thinking about things like that. Because exposing your children and your wife to the elements, it's not going to do you any good. Not to mention the potential that bad weather has to make one sick. So, the USA has double to think about when it comes to preparedness. Because you have to think about in terms of winter and you have to think about in terms of summer. Whereas where I am right now, I have to think about preparedness in a whole, but not worry about the weather, because the worst that can come here is a tsunami. That's the worst that I can think of. Or a very extravaganza earthquake, but nevertheless, a tsunami will come afterwards. And we all know the damage that water does, and we don't have the ability to fight water. So that's another thing that we need to think about, consider. So I'm going to be sharing these videos, and I'm going to put them under the description box. These two videos that I mentioned first, they're going to come at the top, followed by the Mr. Caddy's observation as far as the ship is concerned, along with a video about the big cities becoming death traps, the 7 plagues that are right now creating an apocalyptic end game in the world, how to survive the first 2 months after a shift. I'm also going to include the simulation for the year 2025 as far as hurricanes are concerned. And this video is crazy. But nevertheless, we don't take things to heart. We look at the potential that it has and we prepare accordingly. It's better to be prepared than to be caught off guard. It's better to know that you can rely on yourself, that you can depend on you and those that you share preparedness with and that are like-minded, versus being a sitting duck and waiting for help that will never come. And that we have seen that throughout the past has failed people. Because that will be the difference between life and death, when we can depend on ourselves versus depending on other people. I don't recommend anybody to be a follower. I recommend people to be a leader and think for themselves, depend on themselves, and love themselves enough to know that you have a responsibility to your fellow brothers and sisters and to help out. Because it's not about what we have, because we ain't taking none of this. It's about our good deeds. Deeds that are fruitful and righteous, good and noble. Basically. So, I'm going to leave this video at that. I already asked the questions. I'm going to include basically proof and evidence, because that's what is in the description box. And we are all to take a second look at it. And we are all to reflect on what's been happening and ask ourselves the right questions and prepare accordingly. The first 72 hours of any event are the most crucial. And when we face what is right there with the accurate information, we have a higher rate of surviving. But if we allow people to lie to us and misinform us, that's where we run into problems. Not only as far as preparedness, but under preparing. Because nobody ever over prepares. Those are only few that do that. Most of the people are under prepared. You need to ask yourselves whether the big cities are a place where you really want to be. And if not, you need to start seeking a way out. Not wait until the last minute, which you're not going to get any warning. And we already know how easy it is to lock up the big cities, not allowing nothing to come in and nothing to come out. And we need to be smart. We need to be smart. And we're not ignorant to the schemes of the enemy, that it may catch us off guard, but he's been exposed as the liar, the manipulator, and the con artist that he is, not to mention the imitator, because he imitates everything of our Heavenly Father, and there's nothing new under the sun. So, with this being said, thank you all for joining me on this video and this coffee talk. It's really time to reflect. And the words of caution that not only come from the description box and the videos that it contains, but the critical thinking of what we've seen during this last year and how things still today, a year after, don't make any sense. And the questions that should be answered are still left open for debate. You shouldn't be debating that. It should be clear. But it's not. In the meantime, the world is being held hostage by an unseen enemy, which nor can we see, nor can we fight, nor can we smell it. How, then, can we fight it? Key question. Until next time, everyone, take care. Have a beautiful day. Enjoy it. And much love from me to you all. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. And y'all bless your path into the truth always, my friends. And until next time, take care.